that intuitive guidance that we get that we got to pay attention to. Hey guys, what's up, YouTube? You got to pay attention to it, guys. Life will get really interesting when you do, and when you don't, it'll get really boring. Sorry for spitting. I was just thinking about a few moments ago, and of course, a little light sarcasm and playfulness with the sarcasm, but with the title of the broadcast, the live broadcast. I'm asking, not rhetorically, but just querying, asking, did you know that you could change your mind about your life? And it sounds funny, a bit silly, and a lot of people would nod when they look at their life's choices. Now let's look at what we call major life choices. Whether get married, have kids, get a job, get a mortgage, pay rent an apartment. And they think that once you made that decision, even though most people would nod, oh yeah, definitely. In the next split second, most minds would nod. But if you ask them, well, how about traveling the world like Ryan and Kelly, what they do as full-time digital nomads? The next second, they would automatically, egoically, really, but just reactively say, well, I can't because I have a job. So that's evidence that they don't believe this statement, that they haven't really asked this question, haven't sat around, because they're telling you flat out that they can't change their mind about their life because they've already got a job and that's it. It's over. See what I mean? This stuff is sneaky. It's egoic, so it's very sneaky. Sometimes it's genius. Sometimes it seems really obvious to folks who've made different choices with their lives and like, hey, wait a second. It's like the Jim Rohn quote. You're not a tree. You could change your mind. And it's being serious and truthful. Like you have a job, you want to circle the globe. You could change your mind about working the job and do something different. However, of course, when you change your mind, and the first step is knowing that you can, you're not imprisoned. You're not allowed one choice in this life. Like once you decide to work a job, it's not like, oh yeah, that's okay. Well, I'm going to work a job. I made a decision for the next 40 years. No, you could change your mind at any time. Step one is knowing that you can and being honest with yourself and thinking, oh my goodness, I've kind of, oh yeah, I could change my mind. But then wait a second. Yeah, I am kind of thinking that I could only change my mind once, or I can't even change my mind. No, you can change your mind whenever you want. You don't have to look for permission either. But then when you change your mind, the ego will attempt to flood your mind with fears, telling you why it's dangerous, it's risky, it's a problem, it's going to be a nightmare. You don't want to deal with that. You're going to have problems. There's going to be problems. People aren't going to like you. It's going to be an unpopular decision. Family won't like you. Friends may not like you. You'll lose everything. You're going to go through a real tough period. It's going to be difficult, and it's better not to change. All right, Facebook, you're popping in and out. So you should just stick with your decision, your sole decision, your one decision that you get for this life. So that's the point when most people, most minds say, no way, I'm not dealing with that. Mission control. Hold on a sec. I want to get Facebook back. Stick around, guys. And in that moment, when you're listening to the ego, or you're hearing it at least, you're not listening to it, you're not trusting it, but you're hearing this like crazy, raucous chatter. And it's crazy. We're back, guys. There we go. And it's insane. It's nuts, blah, 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 blah. You have a couple of choices. Sorry, Facebook broke out a little bit, but we're back. You could trust that insane voice that says you have one decision, you can't change your mind, and stick to that decision for the next 40 years because it's comfortable and the other one's scary and dangerous. Or you could begin to understand that the only way you will be free, at peace, and happy and joyous and have fun and love the ride is to ignore, and not flat out ignore, do not trust, ignore it, the voice for fear, and to trust the voice for love and fun and playfulness, which is your intuition. Or you could call it the Holy Spirit if you'd like, or you could call it your gut if you're more of an atheist, or if you're an atheist. But just that intuition knows. So when you trust that voice and you're like, oh yeah, I can change my mind about my life. I don't have to stick with it. And people do it all the time. But you're going to have to make that first, sometimes it's really uncomfortable. Sometimes you're disgusted enough where it's not uncomfortable anymore. Like when I was a security guard 60 billion years ago, it seems, but in a different lifetime, it seems, but a long time ago. Since I made that choice, at first it felt really uncomfortable when I was being downsized, because all the minds around me were reflecting fear, doubt, loss back to me. They were scrambling to go to the other terminals and stay in the union because they were coming from fear and loss and scarcity. And that one decision, I made this decision to work this job, and now it's unfair. And I got that reflection in the beginning, but then I realized that I was fully done with that life, and there was great peace in making the change. A little uncomfortable, but overall predominant peace, because it hit me that I was disgusted with that life and I needed to make a change, but I'd been clinging to it. But it was just this, like a sledgehammer was like, don't do this anymore. Make a different decision for fun and freedom. And it was a telegraph directly from the intuition that was like, no, not no, it guides, but it was just, don't make a different decision. You know, you could change your mind about your life. You could do something different. You could start an online business. You could circle the globe. At the time, I wasn't thinking about these things, but I knew that I wasn't doing that anymore. I wasn't trading 8, 12, 18-hour days for a paycheck. I wasn't trading my life for numbers on a screen. It hit me. I was like, to survive. I was like, whoa, it's an illusion, but I'm like, that's what's happening. I'm not going to decide to do that for 40 years. I could change my mind. Now, a lot of folks around me, a lot of minds behind me were like, no, you can't change your mind. And they were telling themselves, I can't. This is my one decision. It's kind of insane, right? Not pejoratively or sarcastically, like these folks are nuts, but it's not a sane decision when you don't process the truth that you could always change your mind. And of course, when you do it, there's going to be fun and freedom. And if you're utterly disgusted with your life, it's not going to be as uncomfortable. But then if you're maybe not at that point of pure disgust and depression and I hate this, to that point, but you just know that you got to do something different. If you know right now, it's April 10th in the world, 2023. If you know right now that your next vacation from your job is, you scheduled it for December, and you sit in the moment and say, I don't want to do that. I don't want to wait for permission to take a vacation April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. 9 months? I don't want to do that anymore. I have to make a change. I could change my mind about my life. That's where it starts. And then you said, I'm changing this. Now, in the moment, you may not call your boss and say, I quit. Doesn't mean that. But it means listening to your intuition, which says, do what's most fun and freeing and enjoyable for you and your fam and your kids, to give them that inspiration to show that, yeah, your parents could follow their dreams. And listen to your intuition for the guidance that lays out the steps for how to do it, however they go. And it'll be uncomfortable. It'll be scary, but also be fun and freeing. And you'll start to get, when you see folks that are living a dream life, living their dreams, they'll tell you it's really uncomfortable sometimes, and there's a lot of fear at times, in moments. It's not some endless torture, but they'll also say it's really fun to break free from the fear-bound system of the world that says you can't change your mind. Then you start surrounding. What happens too when you make that freedom choice, you'll begin naturally allowing and aligning with people who've made this similar choice of like, oh, I could do whatever I want. From love and fun and joy and what's good for all of us. And then you'll see them around you instead of all the folks, all the minds that say, no, you can't do that. That's dangerous. Or that's for lucky people or rich people or blessed people. Or come on back, scramble back into comfort and fear and that whole world. So that's a little uncomfortable. In the beginning, when you're breaking free, and some of your decisions will not be very popular when you decide to change your mind because of the world, the ego, and the symbols in it will try very desperately to get you to scramble back into that. Well, you have one decision. And you'll know what I mean. When you do it, the more you do it, you'll get it. You'll get it. And the world, of course, is just reflecting your beliefs back to you, but that could be really uncomfortable. But what's the alternative? Thinking you have one choice for a job for 40 years? That's not sane. That is nuts, guys. You know it's nuts. But you have to sit with it and admit it. Then you'll start changing. Then you'll begin to say, oh, yeah, this video makes sense, but I'm not acting like it. I'm not thinking like it. I'm not feeling, I kind of think, well, I have a job and I have the mortgage. And there's another one that's funny. And I used to get this a lot around me growing up. People decide to work jobs that feel depressing or soul-sucking to them. So they're not doing it for fun. Then as they make more money in jobs, and this is another bizarre example, it's very bizarre, of people not changing their mind, not realizing that they could change their mind at any time and reframe it. But maybe it's not bizarre because it's fear. I mean, it's fear. You're like blind to this stuff. People would stay in jobs for a long time, and then they make more and more money at the jobs because they keep getting promotions and making more money. And then they wanted to leave the job, and the people around them would be like, oh, yeah, I know you want to leave the job. And they say, and the people around them are like, well, you're making too much money now, so you can't. That's nuts. There's other jobs with money. There's businesses with money. You think that job's the only source of money? And do you think it's wise to do something that feels really depressing because you think it's the only source of money? It's actually not the source, it's an illusion, but the only channel through which you get money. See how weird it is when you start thinking this through? Yet, you have to make the uncomfortable decision to change, because as long as you don't, you're going to surround yourself organically with minds that tell you these things. And you have to, in your mind, make the change, because if you don't, you'll never leave that world. And if you never leave that world, you'll be nodding in agreement. Yeah, it's making too much money now and it's a good job. What does that even mean? What's a good job? Well, it's a job that pays and there's this and there's that. Is it really fun? Well, not really. Then leave it. Because you could be doing fun things and getting money for it. You could start a business and get money for it. I mean, it takes a while and you have to work at it. You have to develop your skills. But here's another bizarre point. And you'll start to realize these things the deeper you dig into your mind. It's an uncomfortable journey. You have to strip away these just idiotic fears. Would Shakespeare say, life, a tale told by an idiot. He's talking about the ego, these like stupid things, these dumb voices, not listening to the intuition. People talk about, I kind of lost my train of thought there, but when you're thinking about making these big changes that aren't really big, but that seem big to you, you're going to find that in the beginning, the doubts that have prevented you, the fears that have prevented you, in your mind, of course, the doubts and fears in your mind will start being flushed up into awareness. So you've been pushing them out of awareness. You've been making the comfortable choices. Yeah, I'm making too much money and it's a good job, comfortable, blah, blah, blah. Well, is it fun? Are you happy? No. And then the doubts will come up in the world around you, reflecting your doubts back to you. That's all that's happening. So be prepared for that. When you're watching this live broadcast, you'll go, oh yeah, I can make a different decision. But when I do, in a lot of cases, not in every case, the doubts are going to be flushed up. Family, friends, world, whatever, symbols. Oh, that's what I was going to say. Now it came back to me thinking about it. People talk about the time it takes to start a business and the work it takes. You're going to be around anyway for that time. So whether you could be around is another thing. And again, it's nuts. You're going to be around for that period of time anyway. So you could do something very depressing, soul-sucking that you really don't like. Let's say you're not having fun with it, and earn a certain amount of money and be unhappy and bound, and your next vacation is 9 months from now. That makes sense, right? Or you could spend that time doing something where there will be the discomfort of not having the paycheck, and there'll be some discomfort because it's something different. But with the discomfort, there'll be freedom, happiness, fun, choice, opportunity, potential, being truly helpful. Like you'll see, like there's like 50, 60, 70, 100 benefits, and those 2 or 3 kind of uncomfortable, not drawbacks, but just parts of the game when you're getting clearer. But when you're in the world of, well, you only get one decision and I'm going to work, I can't change my mind. I have a job. I can't change my mind. I have kids. And then you look at the world's top billionaires who all have kids. Like the richest people in the world, like Elon Musk, where they have like 10 kids. Bill Gates have kids. Warren Buffett, kids. Uh-oh. You go, just got that one blown to bits. Uh-oh. They changed their mind. They said, nope, I'm going to build these businesses. I'm not going to work for someone else. And if you are having fun with your job, if it's really fun, you keep doing it. It's not, no. Everybody walks a different journey, but we know most people are not really having fun at their job. They're not doing it because they have this intense dream and passion and joy. No. And they think they have one decision, and you'll say, oh, you could do whatever you want. You could change your mind and start, yeah, but I have the benefits and the kids, the mortgage, and I'll just stick around the house, and it's a job, and it's comfortable, and. And they stick with that decision for 30 years or 40 years or 50 years. And they don't change it. It's weird, right? It's odd, isn't it? A bit bizarre, but that's what fear makes you do. It makes you do really strange. I mean, it's fear in your mind that you face, but if you don't face it, you will do really odd, bizarre, weird, not sane things. And you'll surround yourself with minds who agree with these insane decisions. So it'll seem all the more normal. You only break free by choosing to break free in your mind, meaning you have to say, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to make a different decision. Let's look at domestic. Don't worry, COVID. Yeah. Relationships, romantic relationships, marriages. That's another one. You have a lot of people in this world who made a mistake. They chose to be with someone because they were not because they have this love and resonance and respect and openness. And yeah, through some difficult spots here and there, but this real strong resonance with another deepest level of friendship. It's not that. It's that they're terrified. Let me get this body here. I'm terrified to be alone. And they made a decision to marry someone because of mainly their terror of being alone, and there's a body there with them. With that comes tons of, a lot of marriages, resistance, jealousy, anger, rage, resentment. And most people are so boxed in by their fears that they're like, well, I made that choice and I'm going to be with this person for the next 50 years. And they don't realize that both parties could say, it's really rough, going through, it's not going to work. And we could just separate. We could get divorced. We can go in different directions and be happy. A lot of people are like, no, you can't change that. No, I made the decision. I can't change that decision. No, I mean, well, they're okay. 50 years later, 40 years later, 30 years later, still making the same, not pejorative, light jokes, but like really, truly unhappy and miserable and angry and drinking. You can make a different change. You're not Jim Rohn. You're not a tree. Make a different decision. A tree on a worldly conscious level, it does its own thing, but it can't make a decision to be a bird or to just rip itself up. And you know what I mean? It's like when you think about it, you're like, yeah, then like humans could do whatever they want because they have a mind. They have this blessed mind where it's like, I'm going to make a different decision now and move in a different direction. You could do that at any time. You could do that right now. And you could start. It's usually a slow, organic process. It doesn't mean I quit right now in a lot of cases because there's so much resistance and so much stuff that would come up that would be too much for you right now. It would be too overwhelming. Yet maybe it will be. I remember one job I worked decades ago, literally I think now. Yeah, just about decades ago, where there was so much fear and discomfort and just stress. And I was there for 2 weeks. I was a glorified secretary, basically. No disrespect, but I was answering 6 phone lines for a tech company. I knew nothing about any of these products. I was answering 2 email inboxes. It was just complete overwhelm. And I really was, after 2 weeks, I was like, holy, I hated it. I hated it. And one of the best decisions I ever made in my life, just to see that I could make any decision I want at any time. The one day I walked away and I had so much over that 2-week period of I just started, what will people think? There's so many fears. 2-week notice, 1 week notice, 3 days. Oh my God, I don't want to, like, look at how I overestimate. We all overestimate ourselves. We think there's some linchpin to these companies. And I just left there one day and it was one of those life-changing decisions in my mind that seemed to be a life-changing moment. And it was. I walked out of the door and I looked back at the door. It was like a movie, but I literally did this. And I went, that's the last time I'm going to be here. And I'm like, whew, I'm relieved. And that was it. You could do whatever you want. Who cares about the world? And I mean, literally, the world is the world. And by whatever you want, I'm not talking about trying to hurt, or I'm talking about doing things from love and fun and admitting when you made a mistake, chose fear and attachment and your self-importance and ego. Like so many people can't leave a job. Well, I can't leave them like that. Like the company's tens of millions of revenue. I was one employee. Tens of millions, I don't know, 100, but tens of millions in revenue. I'm one employee. And I thought I was the linchpin, a secretary there for 2 weeks. See what I mean, guys? So I went home. As soon as I got home, I felt so much better. I sent the individual email. Could have called them. Didn't feel like it. My decision. I'm sorry, completely overwhelmed. I'm done. And you see, because I had that clarity, rather than getting resistance or rage, or maybe it had a lot of people quit before, it was a relatively new company. I remember he just sent me a message back. He's like, no problem. Just mail in, if you would, the key. And maybe he felt a different way, but it doesn't even matter because it was just that moment of like, I could change my mind and do something different. Now I kicked around for a little bit, started a security guard job, shipping terminal a while later, and that moved me in a freeing direction. Well, not entirely, but eventually. It's all works together for good, but you have to decide to change your life. And especially when it appears to be these bigger worldly decisions, job, mortgage. You have to start listening to the voice that says, you can change your mind. Practically, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to put your kids up for adoption. I don't think people have that clarity of like, I really did it, what? Yet, when you work within the framework of the Holy Spirit and you listen to the intuitive guidance that it gives you, you could still keep your family together and be guided to love the journey and to have fun. You can, when you think the kids are a crutch that you can't circle the globe with, Holy Spirit could have you Google in the words digital nomad family, and then you'll see the 50,000 or 100,000 or 150,000 families or 200,000, or you'll see the numbers and you're like, all these people circle the globe nonstop with their kids. And interestingly enough, it's challenging in moments for sure, but you're seeing these people are not living nightmares, and the kids are really well adjusted. When you come across kids who on a worldly level are raised in an environment of love and some fearlessness and that strong intuitive foundation, it will stun you because you see the power of the mental flexibility of the parents, the openness, the decision to raise from love and worldliness. I don't mean like in the world. I just mean like kids learning multiple languages and being open and being compassionate, and they're just reflecting back what the parents are projecting on them. But it's just, my point is, guys, when you decide to change and based on your love and fun and your intuition and passion and joy, like not fear, the Holy Spirit's going to guide you and open up ways that you had no idea existed. And you'll be living a life that holy crap, a year ago, 6 months ago, 6 days ago, 10 years ago, whatever it is that you have no idea you'd ever be living. You'd have no idea you'd be having so much fun doing something that seems so alien to you or impossible, or not even possible to even think about it. And that's me with this life of travel. Last night I was on a Facebook group for the Pier Guard Union that I used to be a member of when I was a security guard. And I'm like looking at it, and some of the stuff that was going on there was funny from a worldly level, maybe a little egoic. There was a lot of, let's just say, true to the Pier Guards Union, there was airing of grievances, and it was just an endless flow of grievances. So I was chuckling at it because I know everything's mine. Now I'm thinking, not that I was airing grievances, I never filed a grievance at the union. Metaphorically, perhaps a few. But I'm thinking of that. Some of that was my mindset 20 years ago. And then I'm sitting here in Prague, overlooking the river as a blogger, doing a house sit in a 3,000 square foot apartment that on the Upper West Side would be 7 to 10 of New York City. I did the research, 5-bedroom basically, 2-3 bathroom. It would be $7 to $10 million. We're doing house sitting, so we won't pay a penny for it. We're caring for pets, for cats. We're scooping a litter box. And I was a security guard because I was so fixed in at the time that I couldn't change. I didn't know this world existed. It kind of didn't as much. I mean, there was house sitting, but there wasn't. But my point is, like, when you decide to change your life, these seeming major decisions, and you don't just say box in and say, box yourself in and say, I made this one decision, that's it for the next 20, 30, 40 years, 50 years. You will have so much fun and experience so much freedom and be so stunned at what the world, maybe not the world, let's just say the Holy Spirit or your intuition has in store for you. And the cool part is, guys, the intuition only knows love and fun and joy and playfulness. It will only guide you towards that, even if some of the decisions along the way are uncomfortable and you flush up some of the fear. That'll happen, but it's only guiding you with love. The ego only guides you with fear. And when you listen to that voice says, you made this one decision, you stick with it, and you see the journey through, and you be a responsible citizen, you do your duty, and you sacrifice. And the intuition doesn't know what any of that means because that's all fear. It doesn't know what one life decision means. It just knows fun, love, guidance toward joy, being truly helpful for other, we'll say other minds, quote unquote, even though we're all one mind. So guys, we're coming up on 11. I probably go for a walk in a little bit around beautiful Prague. One of the warmest day, I think, since we've been here. One of the warmest. And fairly sunny, so we'll take advantage of that. And our next trip's coming up soon. But you won't know until we get there. That's why I'm whispering. So that's coming up fairly soon, so you have to stay tuned, guys. Just because, well, you'll know when we get there. And Prague's been a joy, and just being present here walking around. And it happened because 20 plus years ago, or not quite 20 years ago, maybe a little under, I didn't say to myself, well, no matter what, I'm going to force myself. I'm going to make this decision to be a security guard. And it's a decision I've made, so we'll stick with it for 40 years. And if I get fired, I'll run back to the union or I'll do something. If there's joy there, go for it. I did not see any. I saw very little joy there. And that's okay. I mean, that was just, and being on that union board is a good opportunity for forgiveness because you just saw a lot of that grievances. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this world? I didn't say no, that's it. I made this decision, changed it. And you can too, guys. Until next time, we know what to do. Enjoy paradise, I hope.